Okay, good evening. It is 7:05 on Tuesday, March 10th, 2026. I now call this Fairfield Township Board of Trustees meeting to order. Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding.
Present.
Trustee Harkemeyer. Here. Trustee McAbee.
Here. Could you please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Mr. McAbee, will you lead us, please?
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Trustee McAbee. We're going to have to pause on the public hearings until we can get our audio visual setup moved over from the fire station. So we'll move on to items for board discussions, and then we'll come back to the public hearings. So the first item is the pickleball courts. Mr. Pensy?
So just so you know, we have met with the Community Foundation over the last couple weeks to discuss fundraising for the pickleball courts. The cost of the court renovation will be approximately $110,000. This is an old estimate where we're trying to get updated new ones. But anyway, the main point is it leaves us with a gap of about $50,000 to fund. So we've looked at asking and identified donors that we can ask to sponsor each different pickleball court. So one thing that I wanted you guys to know is that the contractor has given us a deadline of the end of March to commit to the project, or they can't guarantee that the work can be done by the end of the year, which is when the grant expires. So we have signed the fund agreement necessary to set up the funds with the Community Foundation, which will be a permanent restricted fund that will be used for multiple park purposes. The Community Foundation told us that they can either invest these funds in a market or in a money market account. There will be a clear expectation of each donor, which eliminates the need for us to develop our own legal documents. So that's progress to date.
Anything to add, Mr. Goins?
Yeah, sure. So in addition, the Community Foundation has committed $25,000 towards the project. And with the $34,000 that we have from the Nature Works Fund, we have $59,000 at our disposal, at our fingertips to use for the project. This will not require any funds from the township at this point. We have been in discussion with the contractor and the Community Foundation, and they've agreed to have two phases of the project. Phase A, the township will need to execute. Both of these funds would be funded back to the township in a reimbursable fashion. Phase B of the project will be managed by the Community Foundation, and they're confident that they'll receive the rest of the funds within the next month or two. So that would give us the opportunity, if we have a contract ready later this month, we have an opportunity to get the project moving.
So it's my understanding after the meeting today that the Community Foundation has identified the donors. Discussions have started, but they need to have the one-on-one conversations. We've identified 4 additional donors. That would be sufficient to supply the balance needed to get the project paid for, all by private dollars, no township dollars whatsoever. But we're going to have a special meeting later this month to give the administrator the authority to sign the contracts with the vendor to build or to renovate the courts to put in the 4 pickleball courts. So again, the money's been identified. We'll have to have a special meeting to get the administrator that authority to sign those contracts. So it's very promising. I think we've got the donors identified. They want to help out, and now it's just a matter of the president of the Community Foundation sitting down with each of them individually set up a payment for the funds. So is there a date later this month where the trustees are available for just a quick 5-minute meeting that we could have? We just have to get the resolutions made up and ready to go. Are you available anytime later this month? Well, we just have to have it done by the 30th, so we could have it on that Tuesday, which is what, the 24th? Is that a Tuesday?
Yes.
Are either one of you available on that day? Well, we could do something in the evening too, if that helps. Trustee McAbey?
I can check and let you know.
Okay.
I didn't see this coming. Just so I understand, we're still looking for $60,000.
That's going to be $50,000, right? Was that the number? $50,000?
50 plus, maybe just a little bit of change.
Maybe a little bit of change.
We can find the change, it's the 50,000.
Right.
And they anticipate having those commitments or the money by the end of the month?
We'll have the commitments by the end of the month.
And this board's willing to go based on that?
I'm quite confident, and the people that they have identified, yes, I'm quite confident. Well, I'm one of them, so, yes, so, yeah, you're kind of shaky. But we would have to, I anticipate that we probably would have to make an appropriations for our portion, at least appropriate the money, so that the foundation can then reimburse us. Is that my understanding? So we have the members identified, the donors identified, but at this meeting, we'd probably have to appropriate our half of that project.
You say our half, you mean,
So I think that's going to be under two separate contracts. The community foundation is going to have one contract and we're going to have another. Am I understanding that right?
Yep.
That's just the way that the vendor is working it out for us to save us a little bit of money. It's going to be two separate contracts. But it's going to be 100% privately funded. No taxpayer money is going to be spent having this.
community foundation donation of 25,000?
25,000 from the community foundation itself,
And then how much from the Parks grant?
30,
$34,035.
that gets us around the 60,000. And 4 other donors donating $12,500 each.
Get us the other 50. And we're still talking about hanging a sign or something on each of the 4 courts?
Yeah. Well,
So-
and would have to also be the tennis courts and the 5 courts.
5 courts.
So if you, Trustee McAbey, if you could get together with, just send a message to Mrs. Lepency when you're available that week.
Well, I think it would be helpful to me to know when they've finished all the paperwork.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, all we need is 24-hour notice to do it on the 30th or the 31st. I mean, end of the month, is that what we're aiming for? March has 31 days,
Yes,
right?
I'm not available the 28th through the 1st, through the 4th.
Well, I'm sorry, that was information I didn't have, so.
I was just asking, yeah. So,
Okay, so it needs to happen before the 28th.
yes. No, the two of you could meet and pass it. Good.
I mean, you're probably not allowed to vote on it anyway since you're paying for it. That's another discussion.
Okay.
But I can certainly find out. Again, I don't see you setting a meeting until we know everything's in line.
Okay. Well, how about we just have Ms. Lepency send a note to us or an email when, or text message, when the documents are ready, and we could send her back some dates that were
When
available.
when the money's committed? And what part are we going to do? You're talking about two different contracts, so what would be in our contract?
I'm not sure what half.
So we're just dividing the scope of the work in half, basically. But some of the items that are going to be included is leveling low spots of the courts, removing the old posts, covering the old posts, removal of spoils, then all the coats of acrylic, painting the lines, the pickleball net systems, as well as our prevailing wages.
And so that's both contracts, right, covering all that?
That's our contract. So the additional contract, and we're still working on exactly where it's going to split. But crack repair, some additional acrylics, and then everything related to the tennis courts and some of the fencing.
So there'll be two contracts with whoever the contractor is?
One will be with us, and one will be with the community foundation.
It's just a little different than normal. I mean, this went out to bid anyway, right? The job went out to bid?
So this is this vendor is a part of the Sourcewell.
So the answer is no, it didn't go out to bid.
It's not required to go.
He's
It satisfies those needs.
he's a state approved or whatever.
Okay.
Helpful information.
Sorry?
Helpful information.
Yep.
So, but so they'll be out of commission all summer long?
We would identify the dates. We've talked to staff about putting signage in advance so that users would see signage that it would be closed down for a certain period of time so they can make arrangements to go someplace else, not walk all the way back and see it's closed. Also put signage at all the different walkways to say that it is closed, is under repair for a certain amount of time.
One of the first statements made was that in order to get it done this year, right? So what would be the start date, do you know?
I don't know for sure, but to get on their schedule, we need to commit.
There's certain time frame that it can't be done, like I think in the middle of the summer because it's too hot. So it's got to be put down when it's obviously
Minimum
dry.
of 60. 60 degrees is the minimum. So it's either got to be a spring or a fall thing.
So not next week.
No.
No, we haven't met yet.
No, it's going to be 18 degrees next week, so.
Yeah, so there is a certain time that it can only be done.
Mhm.
And so to get onto that schedule, he needs a commitment by the 30th.
Who is the contractor?
What's the
Get the name.
contractor's name?
That's okay.
But I'm happy that we've had a great conversation with the community fund and they're
That's
working very hard.
excellent. 25,000, that's a heck of a donation.
Yeah. And they're really the ones going out and soliciting the money as well, so from other sources.
Well, thanks for that information.
Well, I think we are now ready to move on to the public hearings. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Pensy.
All right, I'm going to ask Jay to come up and give us a presentation on our comp plan recommendations.
Second file in your computer. This is. I can provide a little background if you guys want through this, and then
Do we have to call a public hearing to order and everybody be sworn and all of that?
call it to order.
I'm sorry. would you-
So we'll need to call the public hearing.
Oh, sure. Okay, now call public hearing for case FTZ C 25-3C to order. Schultz, will you call the roll?
Mr. Burry?
Present?
Mrs. Harkemeyer? Here. Mr. McAdoo?
Here.
So for anyone who's going to testify during this hearing, if you could just raise your right hands. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Thank you.
So, good evening. I just wanted to give a quick background of the comprehensive plan timeline. There's a lot of bullet points up here. I'll just maybe hit a couple of them. April 9th, 2024, the board first initiated the process to review and update the vision plan. Since then, we've had a series of meetings with a comprehensive steering committee that the board appointed. We held an open house event as well as put out an online survey and made available paper survey for residents to provide comments related to changes to the plan. Most recently, December 17th, 2025, the Zoning Commission reviewed the comprehensive plan and made the recommendation for the approval of the updates. Four steering committee meetings. We held three staff and consultant meetings. Jay Stewart from Stewart Land Use, and 2 public participation opportunities. So our consultant, Jay Stewart, will provide some updates and highlights related to the plan. I guess we'll need to pull that up first.
Cool. Yeah, you got it. Maybe see like most of the page. Okay, cool. That's good enough. Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to do a test run here. Is it?
Oh, because it doesn't.
Oh. You want to get like, signals. Okay, bear with us. We're going to be fine. Well, good evening. Start the public hearing. My name is Jay Stewart with Stewart Land Use. As Chuck said, been working with staff and steering committee to come up with the draft of the comprehensive plan. Very quick, most of you probably know this, but definitely for the public, what is a comprehensive plan? It is a plan. It is different than the zoning resolution in that is law, okay? That is more black and white. This is a plan. This is a guideline, for staff, for zoning commission, and particularly township trustees, dealing with topics typically of growth, development. We've got a chapter in here on community connectivity, pedestrian walkways, bicycling facilities, et cetera. So again, the comprehensive plan is to be used in a few very important ways. I mean, number one, it should be a resource you're bringing up every time you have a rezone. Even if the comp plan, or hopefully the comp plan agrees with it, you should still be referencing it. And certainly, if someone is trying to rezone property that goes against the future land use map, again, it's a plan, so it's not law. So you can go against your own comprehensive plan, but you try not to do that. Typically you'd like to have the plan match up to what your vision is for the zoning for whatever parcel out there, okay? But just want to say sometimes, I have had a few times where you're actually, arguing against your own plan because sometimes conditions change. and you just haven't updated that future land use map yet. So, 3, okay, page 3. So Chuck talked a little bit about the process. We had a very good page 3. Sorry, I'll do that. Next one. So we had the public open house. Okay, we had the 2 forms of surveys online. We had the paper available. We did down there, that bottom image is one of the presentation boards. Maybe next slide. And so I dropped these in here. We had 4 presentation boards, tried to pick some of the larger topics, in the plan, certainly Princeton Road corridor, design guidelines. I think we had a board on community connectivity as well. So again, got a lot of good comments from the open house and particularly from the survey. I would say, surveys are tough to get good responses. I don't care how big or small the community is. So I think particularly for your size, at least the comp plans I've worked on, it was probably one of the best survey, results in terms of, number of surveys coming back that I've seen. So that was good. So the process, we're at the point where we went through multiple steering committee meetings. They felt good enough to recommend it on up to the zoning commission. We had a public hearing pretty much identical to this one this evening a couple months ago at the zoning commission, and they voted to recommend adoption up to you. Page 13. So chapter 2 is land use. That's where we're starting to get into some meat and potatoes of the plan. This is the existing land use map, rarely used in the plan, but they always have them. The times I haven't put one in the plan, someone, for whatever reason, says, hey, where's the existing land use? So I just put them in every time now. It's a snapshot in history, or a moment in time, if you will. It's I believe the data is taken from the auditor's website, so it's pretty close in terms of what the land use, what's going on the parcels today. The most important, conversely, the most important single page, and that's going to be on, that's the future land use map on 18. Yep. So conversely, the most important single page, in my opinion, of any comp plan is that one right there. It's the future land use map. That's what I started out with. That's where you're going to be referencing, or I hope you reference, for primarily rezones, but certainly for a variety of other development types of applications, okay? And again, this is a snapshot as of, we'll say, 2026 of how the township would be viewing the future vision of land use down to the parcel, okay? So a few comments on this. So, and again, I'm going to tell you a lot of stuff you already know. I mean, and these are observations from my part. So, first off, the township is almost entirely built out, as you know. There is some land area available, certainly to go residential. There's less available, to go, commercial, and even less, see the purple down the bottom right, kind of the heavier industrial manufacturing, okay? But, it is what it is. It's built out, it's approaching built out. So, I bring that up because that's, I guess, one of the first observations I gave, to the steering committee. And the next thing that flowed from that is a high-level theme is, what are we trying to do with the plan, okay? And one of the main themes is, being almost built out, focus on a few things. You're kind of transitioning to that redevelopment phase, actually. Okay, so you focus on redevelopment, okay, and I'll talk a little bit more about that at the Princeton Road corridor on that specific plan. Infill development, I would say you're transitioning towards that, and that's kind of like redevelopment. You're knocking down an older building, putting a new one back, but also in a residential setting. I don't know how many residential teardowns you would have, but I mean, most communities are seeing an uptick, and I expect that to happen, going forward. So I think, the high level theme is, it's not like you're Ross Township, where you have, thousands upon thousands of vacant land ready to go, whatever the market is, you're quite the opposite. So you have to say, okay, what do we have left? And let's make sure from a land use perspective, let's make sure from a design and aesthetics, what that building looks like, what that house looks like, what that residential subdivision looks like, and really just step back and say, okay, we only have so many new residential subdivisions coming in. We only have, commercial will kind of turn over. Residential doesn't really, as you know. So again, high level theme, focus on, redevelopment, focus on aesthetics, focus on making sure, what you do approve is exactly what you want as much as possible. Because once you're completely built out, as you know, that's about it. If you look at the next page, 19. Chapter 3, small chapter. It's kind of a standalone topic there, but it's called a housing plan. I made a small chapter out of this topic simply because through at least the first several steering committee meetings, certainly a variety of housing topics came up. Okay, and some of the high points, and again, some of these aren't going to be rocket science, but again, it's good to see them in print and in a plan, just so you don't forget them. The first one on there, I talk about residential PUDs. Okay, and going back to what I just said about the high-level theme of, hey, make sure what you approve is really you feel good about and really what you're looking for future vision. I would, again, suggestion, and there's some plan recommendations to this effect is, anytime you could try to get a project into the PUD review process, I would suggest that at this point, okay? You've been using PUDs, as you know. I think, have you done residential PUDs, Chuck? Yeah. I know you've done commercial, several of them. It's a great tool. As you know, you guys have reviewed them and used the process. But again, back to you only have so many land developments, at least greenfield sites left. And so particularly for residential, the recommendation is try to get that into a PUD environment from a review perspective so you can, kind of get what you want. A couple other topics that came up: mixed use development, mixed use out here in suburbia, if you will, doesn't happen much. Sometimes you will find we'll call it traditional mixed use is I'll call it vertical mixed use, kind of your bigger cities, downtowns, that type of thing. In suburban areas like Fairfield Township, you can see some mixed use. I call that either suburban mixed use or maybe horizontal mixed use, where you basically have a development site. Instead of everything in one building going vertical, you've got different pods. And you may have done maybe small portions of this, but you may have a residential pod or two. You'd probably, for whatever site, you'd probably have the obvious, commercial retail service out front as out parcels. Maybe there's an office pod or two. So when I say mixed use, that's part of it. The takeaway here is just consider if you have larger projects that come in as a PUD, just consider maybe a residential component of that, okay? Senior living, that comes up almost every time I do one of these plans. So that's not unique to Fairfield Township. We all know that there's a huge need today, and it's only getting larger in terms of all types of senior housing choices. So there's some recommendations to that effect. And again, a lot of these recommendations, not all, but a lot of them are really looking at two things: land use and zoning. And on the zoning, it's, at some point, you've talked about updating your zoning resolution. So there's a lot of recommendations in here. So again, this is high level stuff, but when you would go and do that zoning resolution upgrade, that's when you would dive into the particulars of this. But again, there's some zoning techniques we could do that could maybe incentivize senior housing. And again, the goal here is to set the topic so when you do the zoning resolution, hey, let's don't forget about, do we want to incentivize this through zoning? That's a lot of what's going on in the plan. So that's the housing. Maybe two more slides. One last thing on the housing. On the residential housing development guidelines at the top there, Kim, it's 21, page 21. I put a couple pages, I call them residential housing development guidelines, okay? They are kind of high-level standards of review, talking about, hey, what do we want these future residential developments to look like? What do we want them to include? It'll have statements like, hey, you should be looking at, having adequate amounts of user amenities, for the people living in the development. Pedestrian connections, could hit on traffic, definitely on architectural. So the thought here is that when you are reviewing, a development, in this case, a residential development, and this goes for zoning commission too. Both of you can use this. You can use this as a guide, so that, if you do want more connections to pedestrian, walkways, if you maybe want more or different types of amenities than what's being proposed to you by the applicant, check this. And again, that's a great tool to say, hey, it's not just me asking for, a bigger playground or a second pocket park in there. We're trying to follow our guidelines. So that's the idea, is to use this as a tool when you're reviewing the residential developments. Okay. Page 24. So I would say after the future land use map, the main body of this plan is Chapter 4. I call them focus area plans. What I like to do with this on a comprehensive plan is in speaking to staff, and then speaking to steering committee, it's like, okay, what areas of the township do we want to spend more time both in steering committee talking about, and then specifically, we want to drill down in the plan and get even a higher level of detail. That's what a focus area plan is. So we got 4 of those: 5 Points District, Route 4 Gateway, Gilmore Road Mixed Use District, and the Princeton Road Corridor. Okay, Kim, next page, please. The 5 Points District, I'll start off with that. I think that's the most interesting and fun one, frankly. So we all know where 5 Points is. You'll see that shaded area basically on the Hamilton Mason and Tylersville Road corridors. The high-level idea here, is to create a plan. And again, when I say create a plan, it would, there's a lot of tools you could put into place from a zoning standpoint, okay, and then certainly economic development at the same time or after that. But basically, the idea here is, to see if the township could create or incentivize or push along the idea of a walkable community. Because again, where this came from is, looking at the township and talking with the steering committee, you quickly stumble upon the fact that, because of how the township is laid out, which is pretty typical of a suburban, township, there's not a ton of walkable, tight, close-knit. Again, you're not urban, you're suburban, obviously. This, again, we picked this area because there's smaller lots. It has kind of somewhat of a unique feel. I mean, there's opportunity to upgrade, structures, and streetscaping and all that in this area. But the idea is, again, is there a place in the township that we could try to create over a long period of time a walkable district, a small district that, has the coffee shops, the art gallery, the small niche, boutiques, the retail, very, small restaurants, that type of thing. We talked about having, the township having some, kind of some assets there already with the land, the building that you have down there. So again, the plan says, hey, is there any opportunity there to think about leveraging those assets, as maybe a first domino? Could there be a small event space in that area? And again, we're way up here at this point, and we're just trying to throw out ideas for that next to see if you ultimately you, the trustees, if you want to, have staff say, hey, let's take the next step of that. Let's drill down and just do a land use and development plan on 5 Points. That'd probably be the logical next step. So that's the 5 Points focus area. And then page 30, Kim. Princeton Road Corridor. So as we all know, that's basically that's the lifeblood. That's the kind of, if there is at least from my perspective, if there's a core, area that brings people, to one place the most, it's that corridor. Some interesting observations there. You'll see in yellow, again, that's all, it's north of 129. Okay, we'll get to the Gilmore piece in a second, but so along there on Princeton, some observations is the limits of the corridor is very finite. It is absolutely set more or less in stone. I think you've got what? You've got the cemetery on the west side. You've got YMCA, and then even if YMCA would not be there, you've got residential, going all the way down that way, and certainly residential on a portion of the north. So it's not like you're going to expand that corridor, number one, okay? And so it is what it is. And back to one of my high-level themes early on, I think at this point, that corridor, it's a combination of certainly newer, a little bit older stuff. And so again, I think there's a lot of opportunity. And again, the plan's going to suggest focusing on things like redevelopment, okay? How can we make redevelopment more attractive and make sure we get what we want? Again, from a land use and from a physical, what's it look like perspective, that's all zoning. Those are zoning recommendations, zoning code, okay? Land use mix, that's another key kind of recommendation on this focus area. What I mean by that is, back to the high-level theme, this is your main corridor. You only have one of them. You have a couple other small or very small commercial hubs, but this is it. Because of that, I want to suggest strongly that you look at the land use mix. Again, this would be when you're going through the zoning resolution update, but look at that land use mix and make sure it's the right mix in terms of permitted uses. Is it the right mix of uses that are going to work well with each other? Are they appropriate for a corridor? Are there uses in there that maybe you already have 10 of that type of thing on the corridor? And you're like, oh, we don't need number 11 or 12, but we would like a couple more sit-down restaurants. That's where I'm talking about. It's like step back and say, hey, we're almost built out. This is our only main commercial area. Let's make sure that land use mix of permitted uses is exactly what we need. And so again, the suggestion is, bottom line is, be choosy. Suggestion is to go with less types of uses versus more, and make sure the ones that you go with permitted, those are the ones that you think are going to work and that you want more of, or you don't have any yet. So other recommendations out of this focus area plan, as I mentioned, architectural guidelines. You don't have those in your zoning resolution. I believe you still don't. Now, you have been putting them on via kind of a case-by-case basis. As you've been doing PUDs, you have been putting, some of those regulations on. So all we're saying in the plan is to say, hey, when you're looking at the zoning resolution, consider adopting and putting in some, and I would say reasonable, architectural guidelines. Okay, reasonable meaning, and this is just a personal opinion, don't go crazy, with 20 pages of guidelines written by an architect. Maybe go with a page of them and pick out just a few of the main architectural pieces or elements that you think you're going to get the best bang for the buck. Okay, and that's just a personal opinion. So I think that's big. Signage we talked about in the plan, upgrading signage. Again, a lot of aesthetics and a lot of land use, and there's also some access management statements in here that, again, if you want to lean on a project review in terms of, hey, applicant wants 3 curb cuts and you only want to give 2, we've got some access management statements and recommendations, again, that staff or you can lean on to say, hey, it's not just us wanting to, it's not just the county engineer. Our plan is also saying, here's why we want to reduce the number of curb cuts. So again, that's an important one, and I suspect you'll probably be, addressing a lot of these items in your zoning resolution. Okay, Kim, hold on. Page 40. All right, the next one is Route 4 Gateway. This is a smaller, focus area. There's not a ton going on up there, as you know. It is, as the name implies, it is one of your front doors. So I think that right there might be one of your, or the key asset of that area. The other key asset is, if you recall the overall township map, you've only got a couple smaller commercial hubs, and this is one of them. And so the intent here and the idea here is to say, hey, again, over a period of time, can we incentivize with some flexible zoning? Again, a lot of it goes back to zoning, putting those zoning regulations and tools and flexibility in place. Can we incentivize some redevelopment of this area? Can we create a nice little decent looking commercial retail service hub? And at the same time, again, recognizing it's one of your key front doors we did talk about, and there's some recommendations on here about gateway improvements, and you've certainly done some, definitely, on Princeton Road, but, maybe, in terms of what's the township's role in this, maybe driving some of that streetscaping and gateway improvements, and maybe that can help spur some development. Okay, and the last focus plan is page 44. That's the Gilmore Road Mixed-Use District. This very interesting, nice, big, and square, which is nice. Great access, great visibility, several roadways, and 129. So most of this, as you know, is owned by a single landowner. So again, we're just kind of, looking at what could be on this. Kim, if you want to get one more page, please. Yeah. So what we did here is, and again, we're not suggesting the site, needs to look exactly like this. It was a high-level conceptual view of, okay, what are the main themes here? Okay, the blue, the main theme there is, hey, let's reserve those frontage areas for the right types of land uses. And what I was talking to the steering committee about with this was going back to Princeton Road for a second, back to my statement of it is constrained. You're not going to expand the Princeton Road corridor, okay, anytime soon. So those types of corridor businesses, okay, retail, we all know, those types of businesses that like to go on corridors or have, good visibility, good access, you don't have very many sites unless you're talking about redevelopment sites left. So the theme on the blue is, hey, reserve those areas out front for, those last, which probably going to be some of your last commercial corridor type uses in the township, because you just don't have many or any other corridors. The yellow, again, same thing. You could, definitely get the retail service in there, maybe some office as well. The green, again, it's a big site, so we could put all kinds of little pods in here. But green is going to be driven a lot by the developer or the owner who again, they may want more office mix. They may want more, maybe it's a healthcare. Maybe that is the main anchor on that site. All I'm saying with the green is, key takeaway, obviously it sets back far enough from the roadways that, certainly retail service, they're not going to want to be back there. So, that's your classic, if it's not healthcare, office, and also you mentioned that, that's where I said, maybe it makes sense to do a pod, or a smaller area of residential, just to get that kind of activity in those developments. It's very attractive, both from people wanting to rent and live there, or buy them if they're condos, and, from the developer community, they're responding to what people want. And again, that kind of walkable, where you get some residential embedded in that kind of nice development, seeing a lot of that today. So again, we're just taking a look and throwing out some high-level themes so that when someone does come in with some sort of plan that'll look not like this, but it'll be conceptual and, whatever, at least you have some basis to be, well, why are you putting office out front, on Gilmore? I'm just making that up. But, again, it's a tool to use for you. page 47. Very quickly, branding came up a lot, community branding in our steering committee meetings. It came up enough that we decided to devote a couple pages, to the plan. I realize, and we talked about, some of the efforts that the township has done, some recently from branding. But again, there's going to be several comments throughout the plan that talk about and recommend and give ideas for branding. I mentioned the gateway, the streetscaping, definitely, continuing on your streetscape design on Princeton, which is very nice looking, a lot of natural materials, a lot of good vegetation. So you've got a design theme. If you're happy with it, that's good. And it's just how far do you carry that down? Where do you carry that to? Another thought in here is, look for opportunities when, particularly for PUDs, when they're coming through, look for ways to get township branding, embedded into those developments. And we've all seen examples of that where, some communities, maybe you'd see a Westchester, logo on a development ground-mounted sign at the bottom of it. That's what I'm talking about. Anywhere you can get whatever your kind of key, if it's that behind you or whatever that key visual is, I'd be trying to plop that into whatever developments that and again, there's some zoning language you could put in that kind of help with that. So definitely branding, a lot of statements and recommendations there. Last chapter, in terms of substantive chapter, is chapter 5. Kim, how about 49? Or I'm sorry, how about 51? Page 51. So this was a new chapter to the plan, and speaking with Chuck beforehand, saying, hey, what are your early thoughts on kind of anything new from the old plan that we did? We put this chapter in here. Why? I mean, first of all, the easy answer is at particularly OKI, when you're going for project funding, depending on the type of project, you can get an easy 5, 10, whatever points it is, just by having this plan. If you don't have the plan, you don't get those easy points. And so if that was the only reason, that would be a great reason to have this in here. Other reasons, it's good to just have a plan of how you think the extension of sidewalks and pathways might, unfold. Okay, and again, the plan recognizes, and I understand that you have been doing, sidewalk projects, et cetera. This is just taking, again, a township-wide look. Kim, can you go to the next slide? So what this does, it breaks the township into basically the map into three sections: a top, a middle, and a southern section, just so we can zoom in and so readers can see the connections. The idea here is, where could we reasonably make connections between key destination points? Again, I think we all know what those destination points are. You got, public, facilities, schools, certainly parks, definitely retail areas. That's primarily Princeton corridor area. And so how can we connect those with typically, residential? In your case, it's mostly single-family detached subdivisions. And so what this does, and again, I'll defer to Chuck in terms, because he really, dug into the connection points, since he knew the township, the best. I believe there's 3 phases, kind of suggested here, in terms of, hey, what's the low-hanging fruit, type of phase one we can do. Maybe we can pair 2 or 3 of these together in one project. But at the end of the day, again, and we heard this in the surveys too, in terms of walkability and safety, the perception of, Princeton corridor maybe not being not as safe as it could be when you're trying to cross. Those are real. So I think there's a lot that could do here in terms of, just providing a map for you, a guide, if you will, definitely during budgeting season. You can always go back to it every year, and if you've got funds left over, refer to that at least to start the conversation. Last chapter, and there's not much going on, page 56, please, is the implementation chapter. And so what I did here is at least chapters 3, 4, and 5 all have recommendations after each topic or subsection. What I did here is basically aggregated everything to make it easier to see. And I split it up by two different ways. This first one, if you see at the top there, it's grouped by chapter. And so it's chapter 3, there's the recommendations, the brief statement of the recommendation, and an implementation time frame. And that's just suggested. That's just to keep things moving. And then the second way we slice this up, do page 60 for me, last one. We also grouped it by year. And so we grouped it by year as another way to look at this to say, okay, this is really grouped by priority, is a better way to put it. Regardless of chapter, or topic, what is the ongoing stuff that we should be doing as we speak? What's the first year, second year, or year 2 to 3 window? And so it's just another way to look at that. And again, I like these chapters in here and how I've used them when I'm wearing my city planner hat, like Chuck does. I am using this, at budget time, with the, city council or township trustees, to take to them to say, hey, a few years ago, we passed that plan and we said in year 2 to 3, we'd be looking at, X, Y, Z, or hey, we didn't do the zoning resolution update yet. So it's just a way to kind of keep everybody remembering, hey, what were the recommendations, what were the time frames. They're suggested, but it does help. I've found that I used it, again, yearly, in the budgeting process. That's how I used it. So that being said, those are the high points. Certainly there's many recommendations in here. Everybody was awesome to work with on steering committee and staff. So much compliments to everybody here. And that's it. If you got any other questions, any comments? I think at this point, Chuck, it's whatever you want to consider adopt it, but I think this would be the last presentation. Is that fair? Yeah. So.
Any questions from the board? I want to thank all the volunteer time that was put in by our residents, giving input. So thank you very much. And then I guess we should ask if there's anybody in the crowd that has any questions or comments about this case. Anything from anybody? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second. Trustee McAbey made a motion to close this public hearing. Seconded. Could you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey.
Yes.
Trustee Birding.
Yes.
Trustee Harkemeyer.
Yes.
Okay, that public hearing is closed. I now move to open the public hearing for case FTZ C26-1C. Is there a second? Ms. Schultz, you call the roll?
Trustee Birding.
Yes?
Trustee Harkemeyer.
Yes.
Trustee McAbey.
Yes.
Okay, the public hearing is open.
I'm going to swear in the witnesses.
Sure.
So for anyone who plans to testify at this public hearing, if you could raise your right hand, and do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
You can have that. I don't have as many slides as Jay. No, I don't. I don't have as many slides. Great. Yeah.
Goins?
Okay, good evening. All right, so as mentioned, this is the public hearing for case FTZC 26-1C. The applicant is Bridgewater Church. Location is 3100 Princeton Road. The board's fairly familiar with the location of the property, so I'm not going to really go into too much detail on that, except that it is in front of and to the side of Bridgewater Church on Princeton Road. So this evening, the applicant is requesting a zone change for 10.92 acres of the parcel from A1 to Business Planned Unit Development District. The applicant is also requesting a major change to the approved preliminary PUD, and the proposal, since this proposal includes a change to the outside of the existing approved BPUD. So recent history of the project. All right, in 2020, the township trustees approved the zone change of the initial 10.75 acres. And then also in 2020, final development plans for Casey's was approved. In 2022, the trustees approved a major modification to the PUD and incorporated the 3.3 acres to the east into the development. As mentioned before, this is kind of a continuation of this existing use, and they're pushing it east. Right up to Big O Tire, I think, is the tire place right there. The plan would maintain the existing Bridgewater Church PUD design guidelines and provide the owners with marketability and flexibility for future development. At this point in time, they do only have 0.67 acres of the property located or kind of carved out for a future user. And that's in the bottom right of the plan on the screen. So the submitted plans include an extension of the wooded conservation easement to the east. This already acts as a natural screen buffer along the northern property lines to lessen the impact to the existing homes. The buffer is planned to taper down to a minimum of 55 foot. And they're also proposing, through conversations with the zoning commission, they're proposing 20 ornamental trees to be planted along that northeast portion of the property to provide further screening. Mounds were considered at one point, but there's a drainage issue in that northeast space, and trees would help with that issue. So something that the church has, is very interested in is the trustees approving a waiver. And this waiver is for the existing church use. The applicant's requesting a waiver for the church to be permitted to expand in its normal and customary principally permitted and accessory uses for a church, including building structures as permitted in the A1 zoning district. And they also agreed to maintain the current aesthetic standards. So the zoning commission did review this. They recommended approval with conditions. Staff is recommending the same thing. So in general, the PUD provides continuation of the commercial corridor along Princeton Road and utilizing previous agreements made with the preliminary PUD and continuing this to provide protective screening. Seems to be a good decision and agreement for everyone. These are the recommended conditions. These were the conditions that were approved by the zoning commission. It's the approval of the waiver, landscaping plans along the northeast of the property line to be approved by the township zoning staff, incorporate trees in lieu of the mounds. And then the third condition they've already done for us, and that's just to show 20% space, 20% open space on the plans. And that's all staff has at this point. That's a quicker version than the other night.
I'm not sure what I need to say. That was a great job, Chuck. I mean, it was just excellent. This is exactly what we're doing. I'm Drew Wilkerson, pastor at Bridgewater Church, and I don't even know that I need my slides unless the trustees, we can go through them quickly. You can see what we were at one point. If you go to the next slide, you want to go to, just go to the next slide. It takes a minute, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm looking at one thing.
No, that's all right. Not a problem. what I can say is they come up, we've had a great relationship with the township. We love doing life in Fairfield Township. The church is growing again after the pandemic, and things are going very well as we continue to provide opportunities for service and ministry. We have a huge family fun day that just is away. Last summer, we ministered to over 700 people. It was all free. There weren't any other cost. And we, as you know, we have an active daycare. So across the board, we have been blessed. You can see 2020, 2022, 2026. We've come back and we've expanded the amendment. When I talked to Chuck about the possibility of bringing another business, he asked if we would consider, because of the planned use, would we consider putting it all in BPUD, which we are. But as he so eloquently shared, we want to retain the ability to expand the ministry of the church based on Ag 1, even though we'll be BPUD. If you go to the next slide, there's your planned use map that we flow into. And then the next slide, when you're ready, you can see right there in the yellow block is where the only business, the only section we're looking at selling would be in the bottom right corner. The church is not planning to develop anymore. I love Jay's planned use, but we think we'll be here a long time and serve a great purpose in the community. If you'll go to the next slide, you can just see, you've already seen this, Chuck added it, but to that northern edge, that's our buffer with the trees. That allows for the drainage, which I know some of the trustees know. We took care of problems that were taking place on neighbors' properties that weren't our issues, but we went ahead and took care of those things with drainage. With Steve Cordy is here from Kleinger's Engineering. That's why Steve is with us. If you have questions, they're the ones that have engineered all this and will continue to do that. On the next slide, these are the types of trees that we'll put in. And then the next slide, you can just see we're right back to to what we're asking. So we've come tonight simply to ask you to approve the expansion of the BPUD with the exemption, so that as the church grows, we would have the ability to expand our own footprint. Do you have any questions after what Chuck shared? I don't want to. I can be as long-winded as Jay Stewart, and Jay's a good friend. But if that's not what you're wanting tonight, a sermon, I'm good at those. But do you have any questions for us tonight?
Any questions from the board?
And who's the end user going to be?
Well, right now we're looking at a BPUD plan. The end user could be anyone. The discussion that we're in right now, there is a vendor, 7 Brew Coffee is the coffee shop that's interested. But as all of you know, until every domino falls into place, we're just here asking for the BPUD approval.
And the access will be off the private street
That's correct.
that goes between the tire stores and the Social Security
There'll
building.
be no access from this portion of the site to Preston Road. That's correct.
The purpose of the whole thing being BPUD is?
So there's limitations to what they would have been able to do looking at that specific parcel. There's a size requirement for it to be a PUD, and it would also need to be connected to an existing PUD. We've worked a lot with the existing one, and I feel like we have some aesthetic guidelines and everything in place that all the boards are comfortable with. We thought it'd make sense to have a continuation of that, to incorporate this, and then also, it's just in case this one falls through, pastor wouldn't need to come back and recarve out a different size shape if a different user comes in. So it just provides them with flexibility to kind of continue developing that front space whenever they're ready to do And then the waiver, it's something I failed to mention. So a church is not a principally permitted use in a BPUD, so that's why the waiver has to be incorporated into it. We want to give them the opportunity to just continue to grow if that's the plan, and then also to develop if that's the plan. They would need to come to whoever the user would be, they would have to have that final development approved by the trustees.
Any other questions?
It'd be like Coffee Shop Row on it. Got one over there by the car wash and got that other name place.
Bigby around the corner. What's the ratio of coffee shops to tire? I think the tire stores all have coffee in them as well.
Getting closer to.
Like 4-to-1 still with that. And the tire store next door, is that B2 or B1? What is that zoning?
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions from the crowd before we close the meeting about this? Well, could you come up just to the microphone and
I've never been here before, so
welcome?
thank you.
You just state your name.
James Brown, James Brown. I feel good in grace.
And your address, I'm sorry, your address?
3551 Betsy, Betsy Ross Drive. I'm loud till I project, so.
Okay.
45011, Fairfield Township. The only thing I don't have is you presented a comprehensive plan with Mr. Stewart. Is this going to be, the only question I have, is it going to be vetted against your comprehensive plan since you're putting that in place? That would be my one. I think that would be a fair question to throw out there, so that's it.
I was looking at the map while you were talking about it. See, that's not the adopted plan at this point, but that's a good point.
I mean, what I would think going forward, if you're going down that path and aligning with zoning, that would be a process in the mix, so.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, I move to close public hearing case FTZ C26-1C.
Second?
Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes?
Okay, the public hearing is now closed. We already did items A, or public discussion. Are the trustees okay to keep moving forward, or you need a short break? Okay. All right, we'll move on to item B, future planning for township operations.
So,
Ms. Spency.
in order for me to plan appropriate for the outcomes of what may be of the spring levies, I would like to have your permission to put on the agenda next month some discussion about what we may or may not do with our budget, like if we have to make cuts or if we have to increase revenues in some way, shape, or form. I think we should probably have a discussion about that at our next meeting.
Thoughts on having that discussion, having the staff put together some plans, working with our department heads? Just to sort of lay out to the trustees' recommendations that they have. Is that okay with you, Trustee McAbey?
Sure.
Okay, so let's put it on next month's agenda. If you want to meet with department heads, that would be great.
Okay.
Okay, the next item is North Hamilton Crossing Project.
So, in order to move forward with secured funding for the Princeton Road project, we are going to have to support the North Hamilton Crossing project in the form of a letter. I had sent emails out earlier today with two different resolutions. One is basically just a letter of support, and the other one is a letter of support with conditions, plus a commitment for funding for Princeton Road. So if you guys could just tell me which way you're leaning, like if you want to go forward with the Princeton Road project. I think Trustee McAbey had reached out about his concerns with the TID about the increase in traffic from the North Hamilton crossing as it comes through. The kind of booger here is that we have no idea when the North Hamilton crossing project will be built, if it'll ever be built. We know that Hamilton is moving forward with that first phase of the roundabouts and the Black Street Bridge replacement, but we don't know what's going to happen with the middle of the project. So this may be for nothing. It may be we do it now and then it's got to be redone. I don't know. So, but I do know that the Butler County Transit Improvement District will not submit an application on our behalf for ODOT funds for planning unless we give them this letter of support. So it's either we give the letter of support and we move forward with nothing, or we give them a letter of support and we agree to certain conditions. One of it is a funding request, so we have to agree to provide $2 million in funding towards the widening of the project. So it would be a 3-lane project with sidewalks on the north side and curb and gutter, and it would cost roughly somewhere around $5.5 million. So if we go forward and apply for an OKI grant, which the county has agreed to help us with, we could get 80% of the funds, and the $2 million would be our 20% match to that. Thoughts?
Thoughts on the board? I know, Trustee McAbey, you're on the TID board. So help me understand, I know that you reached out to the TID to try to get some funding from state.
Yeah, the director asked for possible new projects for the whole county, and he'd asked the time frame is now for that. And there is apparently some money in the budget for that. So I had asked years ago about some help to widen and make it a safer stretch of road, and it didn't score well enough. So I brought that up again, and I had a conversation with the director. I think you also talked to him.
Yeah.
And then I read his letter. And then Kim came to the TID meeting yesterday, and she had a conversation with him and the engineer and a representative from Hamilton. So I don't know if everybody's up to date on what came out of that or not, but she summarized it pretty well. They're looking for support. We have not supported the North Hamilton crossing for 2 very good reasons. And one of those seems to have been settled, staying off the bottom property. The second one was what happens on the east end. You know, what does it look like? What's it mean to us? So I still have real reservations about, because they still don't know. I also pointed out to the director that, you know, we've got a small zone change tonight off of Princeton Road. We've got the 91 acres, probably one of the most important tracts of land in central Butler County at the Gilmore Road site, all pretty close to to Princeton Road. I tried to lay out some of those things. I also reminded him, I had to tell him, but I reminded others that that used to be a state road. And when they built the new 129, they dropped that half on us, you know. And I think because it doesn't go anywhere, or didn't go anywhere, or whatever, and there's some work to try to get that changed. But I have, you know, it needs work. I don't know either the time frame for them building the east side of that. I'm still not sold on it. There's a lot of money being spent on the west side, so it'll be interesting to see how it develops. So I'm sort of torn between a letter of support and wait and see what it is. if they're expecting us to come up with $2 million, which we don't have, you know, I'm interested in what the two of you, your thoughts on any of that. And I don't know if Kim got to go down to the OKI session today or not, but they've opened applications for paving and things like that at the OKI level. So maybe we could get some help from them on paving Princeton Road. Maybe not widening it, but at least paving it.
Thank you for that. Would you like to add anything?
I am very pleased that the North Hamilton Crossing project is not going to interfere with the Bonham Farm. I think all three of us shared commonality in that we did not, if the Bonhams weren't for that, then we couldn't support that either. So I think that was a definite win for Fairfield Township and for our residents over there. I think that widening Princeton Road, that's something that we've spoken of for many years, and I think we all agree that that needs to be done at some point, especially with the increased traffic, potentially from this crossing and then from the development that could be happening over on some of those corridors over there. The concern that I have is paying for it, because I think there is some money in the TIF, could be used for that, but I think we have that allocated for the firehouse right now. So I don't know with that $2 million, are we going to have to make a choice? Is there a way that we can somehow make the fire improvements happen along with this widening project? I'd love to say, hey, let's do both, but I think that we've got some constraints that we need to consider, and we really need to hash through that and decide what is it that we want to do. I know we're not really, we're generally debt averse, but this might be an occasion where we would want to take debt if we do choose to move forward with one or both of those projects. If this is the time, in fact, to do it. I mean, I think there are some time constraints on when this would have to be submitted, correct?
Yeah, so the OKI application would have to be submitted in May, and then the ODOT application's due this month on the 20th.
Okay. And that would be for if we want to do the widening project. And I
Right,
think
it's planning dollars only.
planning dollars only. But I think that the other thing too is that it's a situation where if we go and do it, we can't change our mind and say,
Right, you
okay,
have to be committed.
we have to commit, and we can't say, okay, never mind, we're not going to do it. I too had a conversation with Dan Corey on this topic. So I think it's something we would have to commit to. So.
I think there's two separate things. One is letter of commitment to the North Hamilton Crossing, and the other is Princeton Road project. And so I remember that when we rejected their letter of support letter twice. And the first one was about the Bonham Farm. They committed to not going through the Bonham Farm. And they came back, and if I remember correctly, the trustee said, well, we can't support this because it's not addressing. No, there's no conversation taking place about Princeton Road. So I think that now that there's at least conversations, they're now discussing their support for the Princeton Road project. They are saying that they are in favor of that, and they're helping us get the grant for the project. I am at least in favor of supporting the North Hamilton project, because they do have some sort of resolution for us to address Princeton. It might not be the greatest resolution, because we would have to pay for part of that project, 20%, but at least it's them saying, we understand that there's a need, and we would support that. So that's enough for me to support the North Hamilton project, because we also know that it's going to be 5, 10, 15 years before they make it this over to Princeton Road on that project. So maybe that gives us time to get a better foundation for our financial situation to undertake that project. Maybe we don't undertake the Princeton Road project until we have a firm hold on our finances. I also believe that if we commit to doing the Princeton Road project now, we do have the TIF money available, although we did want to earmark that for the new firehouse. Come May, the residents may tell us a different story. And then we have to have conversations, do we renovate a fire station where the residents saying, we're not going to give you money to staff that? So that's a conversation to have. So I think the first step is, will we support the Northampton Crossing project? We have to decide that as a board. Do we send a letter of support saying, okay, we support this project as an area-wide project? And I think because they now have recognized that we need their help with the Princeton Road, I am in favor of at least approving that project. Still other reservations, like you said, Trustee McAbey, but at least they've recognized what our issues are. So that's one thing. And now the Princeton Road project, again, that's another conversation that we need to decide. Do we want them to submit an application for us to get those planning funds, knowing that if we get the grant, then we're going to have to commit to the nearly $2 million to do that project. So I need to know, I need to understand what's the priority for the TIF money. Is it fixing the fire station, or is it widening Princeton Road? And if the TIF money can be spent one way, then are you then committed to where if we do repair the fire station, then we might have to go out and borrow the money to fix the fire station? So those are all questions I have for this board, like which way do we want to go for that? And is that something that you're not ready to commit to? I understand. There's a lot of uncertainty involved with when do we do the Princeton Road, and then when, what funds do we commit to the fire station? Those are questions I'd love to have a discussion about.
I mean, there's no way of knowing whether we would get the money for, what's the term? The design, engineering?
The
and
planning.
Planning. So that would be the first step?
Yeah, the ODOT funds application is due March 20th, so that locks you in for funds for planning. And I think there's like a $500,000 cap maybe with that. And then, but the next step is the construction. And ODOT doesn't like you, if they give you planning money, they want you to build it. So you can't just take one without the other, you have to take both.
So again, we would be looking at least a year to commit for that.
I think they would need money this year. Dan Corey led me to believe that there would be an amount, I want to say 500, 600, that they would need this year. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think you're probably right, because ODOT always requires money up front.
So we would provide the money and they would pay us back, the planning money?
No, they combine them, but they want your share at the time that they're paying bills. So they go out and they'll hire a consultant that's on their list, and then they'll say, well, it's going to cost $750,000. So what they'll do is they'll pay, say one request comes in at $150, they're going to take $750 from us and whatever the share is. They'll take our money and their money and put it together and then pay the contractor and do that down the line. At least that's been in my experience with them.
So is there an opportunity to ask the TID to postpone this ask for the funds and ask at another date, come back to addressing Princeton Road, or is it, how high on that priority list is Princeton Road?
Yeah, and it won't be very high, but if there's money left over, we might snag some of it. So that's to me, would be the thought, to try to get on the list, get in line, and see.
And when did they also say that the infrastructure money was going to go back to its normal levels? Because right now it's increased because of that infrastructure bill that was passed. So it goes back to when? 20, is
is it 2 years, maybe?
Yeah, so that was the other,
Right.
the other thing
There's-
is they have increased funding available, so they're trying to get as many projects in as they can while we have increased funding, and then, because in 2028, it's going to go back to its normal level.
I mean, they don't know that it won't be extended, but
Sure.
there's no commitment to extend it. I mean, if we had to use the TIF money to move that project along, as much as this hurts me to say it, that would make me think that I would borrow the money to repair the fire station based on a yes vote in May. So we could continue to staff the building. The other thing that I think needs to happen, and I don't know when the next Hamilton Indian Springs JED meeting is, but if we could try to get some support from the JED board itself, which is still the city and us.
It's Thursday.
That topic, to me, they get 75 cents of every dollar collected over there on that side. If they would share some money, and again, I don't know all how the details would shake out, but I'd mentioned that before. I think that's a conversation to see if there's any interest in that. But I would be in favor of that, borrowing the money, at least most of the money to repair the fire station. It needs to happen, and it needs to happen last week. But at the same time, you've heard me say before, if we can't keep the staff we need, then I'm not in favor of fixing the fire station. If I have to choose between staff and the station, I'll pick staff.
I'm happy to hear that you are committed to the Princeton Road project. I would agree. I think infrastructure is very important. I think as we develop that Gilmore Road corridor, it's going to be important to have Princeton Road updated. I think there's a possibility, if I remember correctly, in discussions, that there would be some sort of walkability potentially along that Princeton Road, maybe a bike path or something where pedestrians could walk, connect them. So it's a possibility, not guaranteed. Once you start going curb and gutter, then you have possibilities. So I would hope.
And I'm sorry, but part of that is what needs to happen is we need to find out what we can do and what it would really cost. And that's part of the planning part.
Right.
And maybe we leave room for the bike trail, but don't do the bike trail,
Right.
because of money. And there's doing it curb and gutter and doing it with ditches. I mean, I think all of us would like to see curb and gutters down through there, but again, what's best for the situation and what we can afford.
I think we can get into that discussion more later, but
Right.
if we're getting 80 cents on the dollar to do a project, and we can make it safer,
We're in.
it's better for us, right? So,
Princeton Road has been something we've been talking about for years.
and we do have a revenue source there to help with that. So it sounds like to me that I think we have resolutions later to approve the letter of support. And
We would have to add it. So,
We'd have to add it, okay.
yeah, it's have to add resolution number 37. I drafted 2 of them. One is just a letter of support, and then the other one is a letter of support with all the conditions that the Butler County Transit Improvement District would like.
And we were just talking about the Princeton Road part. Kim, were they also looking for some type of money commitment for the roundabout?
No, not at this time. Just Princeton Road. But just know that the city of Hamilton would like us, strongly encourages us to contribute to that project, and they would like a third.
Well, then I think we need to mention trustee McAbee's point, and that is that they're getting 75 out of that versus the 25 that we're getting. So I think that they need to be reminded of that for sure.
Okay, I will make a motion to amend the agenda to add resolution 26-37, pledging support to the North Hamilton Crossing project. It's a second.
I changed the title to say that, well, it's not in yours. I amended the title after I sent this out. So I added the title in the very second one to say, yep,
I made the motion.
okay.
So I make a motion to amend the agenda to include the resolution 26-37. The resolution title reads, "Resolution to pledge support for the city of Hamilton and the North Hamilton Crossing project and to commit funds not to exceed $2 million for the Princeton Road project."
Second?
Any discussion? Again, we're just amending the agenda to add this. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee McAbee?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
And that will be added to the end of our agenda before we move into committee reports. So that'll be item G. Okay. This time, we'll move into communication. And this is the portion of the meeting where you, the residents of Fairfield Township, are invited to share your thoughts with the board. Please know that this time has been set aside from the board to listen to you. Your comments are valued and will be taken into careful consideration. The board will not engage in dialogue at this time. Presentations are limited to 3 minutes each. The first person that signed up was Ms. Barb Howland. Could you please come and state your name and address for the record?
Barbara Holland, 6921 Morris Road, Fairfield Township. I want to thank you for knocking my mailbox over in the snow. I want to thank you for coming back and putting it back on. Now
So she can get her, bills.
You get no thanks. My next question is, I'm not sure who I direct this to, whether it's the police or the zoning. I brought this up before at the last meeting I was at. Coming out of the church, Canes, the car wash, all that out of there, I need to turn left to come home. That's bad. And I requested, can you check and see if they can put a left turn signal there? Because you can't see up that hill when they're coming at you. You can see 2 cars, and then there's a dead spot. And you come out, boom. I think we need to do a survey. We need to get I don't know who does that, traffic, I don't know. But we need to check on that and see if that can't be, have a left turn signal up there, because it's really bad. I go around the block to keep from turning left.
What are you doing in there?
That's extra gas.
What are you doing in there anyway?
Well, let's see, I don't do the car wash, I do Canes, I don't use your church, I do mine online. But yeah, I go over there every once in a while. Yeah, anyway, if we can check on that and see if we can't, that's a safety issue. I'm sure I'm not the only one that complains about turning left. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next person that signed up is Miss Denise McCoy.
Hi, my name is Denise McCoy, and I live at 6673 Spring Meadow Drive. At the February meeting, a presentation was given by the Fairfield Coalition concerning educating students about misuse of opioid prescription. The board donated $10,000 to the coalition, but the township was given over $90,000 for the cause. I would like to make the suggestion to donate the entire amount to the coalition. Fairfield City Schools is a school district for Fairfield Township. Essentially, the township would be investing in the lives of students in our very own community. During the discussion, Trustee Harkemeyer, you stated that the funds could be used to fix signs, and I do agree that the signs do need to be fixed. But instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars to fix 3 electronic signs, I would like to recommend that the signs be converted into illuminated cabinet signs. A cabinet sign is a hollow sign inside that contains a light box with acrylic panels with logos and addresses, where logos and addresses can be placed on each side. Illuminated signs are attractive and affordable, and from what I researched from them, an average illuminated sign would cost between $3,000 to $5,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCoy. Hey, nobody else has signed up. Anybody else wanted to speak? All right, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items under the consent agenda are considered by the Board of Trustees to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Any trustee may remove an item from the consent agenda by request. No second is required for the removal of an item. Items removed for separate discussion will be considered after the motion to approve the consent agenda. At this time, I move to adopt the consent agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments? Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemeyer?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that motion passes. May we have the fiscal officer's report, please?
Sure. So cash balances as of the end of February, $1 million in the checking account. We have $212,000 in medical. The JED revenue year-to-date received for Hamilton's $146,000. For Fairfield, it's $56,000. In our investment account, we have $14.4 million. We earned $33,000 in interest in February. EMS billings to date are $103,000. Revenue year-to-date is $4.6. Revenue budgeted $20.3. Expenditures to date $6.1. Appropriations budgeted was $23.8. Payments made in February was $1 million. Our total combined balance is $15.6. The only other thing I have is CIC audit is starting, as you guys know, so please be aware of things that come in your mailbox that need done. And I will not be available for the April meeting, so Kim's going to handle it. That's all I got.
Any questions for Ms. Schultz? Okay, we'll move on to the administrator's report. Ms. LaPensi?
All right, first item on the agenda is a motion to authorize the administrator to submit a capital grant request to the state of Ohio for funding for the fire station improvements. So Chuck's been working on a grant that is due Thursday for that. And then we were told to apply under emergency infrastructure. All right.
Motion to adopt.
Second. Any questions or comments?
I did speak with Senator Lang's office and also Representative Mullen's office regarding this, so they are expecting this. It's kind of a long shot because they are focused more on business improvement opportunities, but I think in economic development, we might get it, we might not, but I think it makes sense to put the shot up and ask the question. The worst they'll say is no. So thank you, staff, for working on that.
I think we can also talk to Representative Hall, since he is a Butler Tech firefighter graduate.
Sure.
So it'd be good to speak with him about that. You have? Perfect. All right.
How much are we asking for?
We're asking for $2 million.
So
Okay.
the question I have, if they grant us a percentage, is there strings attached that we have to do a certain amount of work?
I think you have to complete it all, but they give you 2 years to do it.
If they say, we're going to give you 1.5 of the $2 million ask, we have to do the $2 million worth of work, and They'll give us the 1.5. We can't say, well, thanks for the 1.5, we're going to do 1.5 worth of work.
That's how it works, but
I'm just clarifying it.
Yeah.
Okay. Great, okay. I think we had a first and a second. Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
motion is passed. May I have the next motion, please?
second motion is to authorize the administrator to sign an electric aggregation contract with the price not to exceed 10.1 cents per kilowatt hour and a term not to exceed 24 months, which in this case would end in May of 2028, with the supplier to be determined based on the pricing at the time of the contract execution. So there was a memo in your packet that Energy Alliances put together for us, and they kind of gave a little rundown on their analysis of where the rates are right now and where they think they're going to be.
Motion to adopt.
Second? So it's my understanding that the rates from Duke were going to be much higher than the 10 point.
Yes.
So this would be a good deal for the residents that are already in the aggregate. They won't have to re-enroll, they're already enrolled in the aggregate.
Right.
Any residents that want to take advantage of it can enroll in it.
Right.
So it's not like it expires and then everyone gets thrown back in again. No need to take advantage of the 10.1, it's just people that are already in the aggregate.
Yep,
Or
and then you can,
aggregation. Sorry,
and the
aggregation.
good thing about the aggregation program too is you can always go to the PUCO's website and shop the rates. They have all the different rates that are available, and you can get on and off the plan any amount of times that you want to do it. There's no set, you have to stay on it or you have to be off it. You can go back and forth as many times as you want. But right now, the aggregation rate is lower than Duke's rate. And then we were just notified last week that Duke is going to seek another increase in their rate.
And so I know a resident reached out to me to talk about this, and they had someone come to their door, a different energy company, come to their door and ask them to see their electric bill. I will caution all of our residents, do not give out your electric bill to anybody coming to your door asking to see it. You don't want to give them your codes and all that information. So please, residents, do not give that information out to anybody coming to your door talking about energy rates.
And you can get your electricity from anybody you want.
Right. Okay, Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
That motion passes. May we have the first resolution, please?
Resolution number 26-31 is a resolution to approve as recommended by the Fairfield Township Zoning Commission the proposed update to the Fairfield Township Comprehensive Plan as set forth in zoning case number FTZC 25-3C.
Motion to adopt.
Second? Any discussion, questions? Okay, Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution number 26-32 is a resolution to approve as recommended by the Fairfield Township Zoning Commission the requested zone change and the major change to the approved preliminary PUD by Bridgewater Church as set forth in zoning case number FTZC 26-1C.
I move to adopt Resolution 26-32.
Second.
Any further discussion? We still have the authority to approve anything that goes in on that site. Okay, Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes,
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution number 26-33 is a resolution appointing Paul Weingartner, Michael Fannin, and Kenneth Lowe as members of the Fairfield Township Zoning Commission to fill vacant, unexpired terms.
Motion to adopt.
Second? And when will these, how long will these terms be? Do they drop off at different times, correct?
Correct, yeah. So they're filling the unexpired terms left by Greg Philpott and Cheryl Ledbetter. So yeah, they expire, we have a member expire once a year.
Oh, okay. So they'll be back up for a vote when those terms expire. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution?
Resolution 26-34 is a resolution appointing Kane Barger and Jason Purviance as members of the Fairfield Township Board of Zoning Appeals to fill vacant, unexpired terms.
I move to adopt 26-34.
Second?
Any other questions or comments? I know Mr. Barger is a volunteer in our community. I'm happy to see that he has applied and hopefully will be accepted onto this zoning appeals board. Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution number 26-35 is a resolution authorizing the chief of police to execute a mutual aid agreement for law enforcement.
Motion to adopt?
Second. Chief, could you elaborate a little bit more about this agreement?
It's a little bit different than the one that we've had, just because it's updated. Chief Matt Carr from Trenton is taking the lead. He has to present it to all the jurisdictions, so not everybody has signed it yet. And it's just minor changes that will occur.
Such as?
Actually, Larry, everything is by Larry and Katie, but Larry responded back. Page 8 states a minimum of $3 million for indemnity, and he believes that should be or changed to the maximum. And page 9 indicated that the document discusses insurance limits. Fairfield Township is a member of a risk pool, which is technically not insurance. But that should not matter, according to him, for us to move forward with. Just minor stuff.
Any further questions, comments? Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
That resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
Resolution number 26-36 is a resolution authorizing the payment of funds to Barrett Paving for the 2026 paving program in the amount of $281,988.45, which will be paid from the RID Fund 4903.
I move to adopt 26-36.
Second?
Any further questions or comments?
Have they done the work?
No, excuse me, they're supposed to start next month, I think, with repairs.
Normally, we don't pay them until the work's done.
This is how we had it worded last year.
Was
The
it?
county awards the contract,
Right?
and then it's like a pass-through to us, and then we just directly pay Barrett.
Right, after the work's done.
Yeah, after the work is done.
That's our total amount of paving this year,
Yes.
281?
Yeah, everything, all the bids came in lower than expected.
Good for us.
Okay. Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. May we have the next resolution, please?
All right, Resolution 26-37 is a resolution to pledge support for the City of Hamilton and the North Hamilton Crossing Project and to commit funds not to exceed $2 million for the Princeton Road project.
I move to adopt 26-37.
Second?
Any further discussion? Okay, Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll, please?
Trustee Birding?
Yes.
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes.
And that resolution is adopted. Committee reports? Trustee McAbey?
Well, we talked a lot about the TID already and some of the conversation that took place. The TID did pass a resolution to start the process for the Princeton Road widening. And for the roundabout on the west side, part of the North Hamilton crossing, so we will submit now for both of those, the TID will. Everything else is on track.
Mr. Corey presented at the engineer's office dinner a week ago. Time's kind of running together. He talked a lot about the Milliken Road interchange, and it's going to be one of those diamond crossing interchanges with a roundabout at Butler Warren and a roundabout at
Cincinnati, Dayton, Mass.
So, and it's going to be, they're looking to maybe, Liberty Township is looking to that to be more industrial and commercial, residential.
To pay the bills, yes, to
Yeah.
pay the bills. Yes, there was only one more large amount of funding that we've applied for. So that, as I've told you in the past, that thing's got legs, it's going.
Yeah. Very interesting. Any other questions for Trustee McAbey? All right, Trustee Harkemeyer, EMA and OKI and Clout.
Nothing to report on EMA. OKI meets Thursday. And Clout, nothing really there to report either, but they are looking at getting more involved with this property tax issue.
Okay. Board comments, Trustee McAbey?
Not at this time.
Trustee Harkemeyer?
Can we please look at adding the comprehensive plan, year one, year two, all of those things to the schedule, the calendar that we have here, the annual business calendar? If we can get those things added in there too, I think that would be a good add.
Okay. Take care of that for you.
Cool. And then is there anything that we need to, if we can just look at March, April, see if there's anything that we need to add or anything for planning purposes for our next meeting, et cetera.
So I think nothing to add it to that calendar, but that does bring up a point that we will need to schedule a CIC meeting coming up
I
soon.
think so.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Looking forward to hearing Ms. Lepensi at the State of Schools address tomorrow. It's going to be awesome. And
At all.
no pressure. I provided her with some photographs that she wanted, so looking to see how she incorporates those into her presentation. I do want to thank Trustee McAbey and Trustee Harkemeyer for the work that you did to put in the park behind here, Heroes Park, and the playground. It's just so amazing to see all the families that are out there using that park. That in past years would never have gone and used the park that we had here. Maybe a couple, but it's any kind of warm weather, there's dozens and dozens of families out there. So I personally want to thank you both because you had an integral part of that. Was before my time as a trustee. So thank you. It's wonderful to see the residents take advantage of that. Of course, we might need to expand the parking, but no, it's there's an ample parking on the other side of the fire station as well. So, but it's great to see them out there. So thank you for that. Announcements: the State of the Community School address is tomorrow, Wednesday, March 11th, 2026 at 11 a.m. at Fairfield High School Community Room. Butler Tech Aviation Center ribbon cutting is on Monday, March 16th at 10 a.m. That's at Cook Field in Middletown. Goodwill grand opening ribbon cutting is Tuesday, April 2nd at 9:30 a.m. I previously said I was able to attend that, but I am not able to attend that now. So if you could reach out to someone else who would like to make comments. Regular trustee meeting is Tuesday, April 14th, 2026 at 7 p.m. And like Ms. Schultz said she'll be very busy filing last-minute tax reports for her various clients, so she won't be able to be there. Okay,
Just a reminder of, hopefully we have a special meeting the last week of this month.
yeah, special meeting to be
Yeah.
determined. We'll put it out on the website when that's announced. At this time, I make a motion, I move to go into executive session pursuant to ORC 121.22G1 to consider the discipline, appointment, employment, or compensation of a public employee or official, and ORC 121.22G2 to consider the purchase of property for public purpose, sale of property at competitive bidding, or the sale of other disposition of unneeded, obsolete, or unfit for use property in accordance with Section 505.10 of the revised code and ORC 121.22G8 to consider confidential information related to marketing plans, specific business strategy, production techniques, trade secrets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments from the board? Ms. Schultz, will you call the roll?
Trustee Birding?
Yes?
Trustee Harkemaier?
Yes.
Trustee McAbey?
Yes? Action or no action?
Motion passes. There will be no action, probably no action to follow executive session.
May or may not be.
May or may not be.